overcoming procrastination. The first step is preventing different reasons why we don't do tasks or different projects. Sometimes it is a fear of failure. I'm afraid what's going to happen. I'm afraid that I'm going to do it today, but then I'm going to fall off the train tomorrow. Like, why am I even going to start? Sometimes it's a fear of success. If I do this task successfully, or if I really commit to doing something, I don't want to follow through because there's a lot more commitment that's going to come later on. A fear of the unknown. How do I even start? How do I even do it? And a lot of those things are really holding us back from taking the action that we know is going to help us both in our ruchnius, both in spiritually as well as in our material lives and our personal lives.
Today's episode is sponsored by Boris M Tax Planning and Advisory. Schedule your free tax strategy session online and get started now. Call us at 212-430-6881 to learn more.
Beruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us Mr. Avi Friedman from Boca, Florida. Baruch haba, welcome. How you doing?
Great, Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Amazing. Baruch Hashem. Thank you very much for joining us on the Chazaq Torah Talks. And we're going to be speaking about a very important topic, a topic that I enjoy very much. Time management is very, very, very important. But before we get to the topic, we get a little bit of background about yourself and what you're involved with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. So I'm actually from Queens originally. I moved to Boca about 9 years ago. And in my work, so I remember growing up as a kid, I was very organized. I was a good student in school. But then all of a sudden, as time went on, I became an adult. I felt like there was so much on our plates that it just got overwhelming. I found myself struggling with my calendar, struggling with projects and tasks and all these different things. And even though I had a therapy background, a marriage and family therapist, I found that because I was struggling in this area specifically of time management, and that I was able to make progress for myself in developing personally, taking courses, trainings, tasks, even just for my own personal self, that I ended up switching my focus from therapy to doing time management coaching. I work a lot with business owners and entrepreneurs who, again, no one's telling them what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. So a lot of that needs to be really pre-planned and given those structures and tools. So that's my work as a time management coach, and been able to help a lot of people really maximize their time, which is amazing.
That is amazing. And as we all know, that the second that comes is a second that goes, and you're never going to have that second again. That applies to the minute and to the hour as well. So it's very important that we take advantage of our time and be very productive in doing all the great things that we want to do. So if you give us some tips for managing our time better, what would they be?
Absolutely. So there's definitely a lot of different areas of time management. And what typically people come to me and say, okay, let me just manage my time better. Like what can I do right now? And what we instinctively do is, okay, I'm going to set up my entire day structure. Okay, from 6 to 6:15, I'm going to do this, and 6:15 to 6:30, which is a very common time management technique of time blocking. What I would advise in that situation is, if we're trying to really set up our entire day exactly, and we're going to have curveballs in our day. We're going to have things that come up, and when we have too much structure to start with, and we're really going all in and going from 0 to 60, then we get stuck in what happens when things go wrong, and then the entire calendar and the entire structure crumbles. So instead, I advise people to start small. Again, pick an area of your day, whether it's your morning, you want to develop a morning routine. Let me set up a schedule for my morning. Let's say I wake up at 6 until it's 6 to 9 o'clock. What am I doing in those 3 hours? Or alternatively, trying to find my evening. Okay, how do I want to set up my evening? How do I want to set up, let's say, even picking one day of the week on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. How do I want to set that up? And then as you're establishing those habits, as you're building those blocks, you're able to build on top of that as well. So that's really the biggest tip and the biggest strategy that I recommend to people is start small, but you're trying to build routines. And that way, once that gets solidified, you can add on to it.
Amazing. So that's very, very good advice. Start small and grow. And there's in the Lechadudi that we say on Erev Shabbat, on Friday nights, we say, Sof Maaseh but machshavat tchila, the end result with the thoughts in mind. So the vision is that a person wants to accomplish something, block it off for a little bit, start off with, like the Avi said, in the mornings or one day, and then take it from there. One of the issues that I see with many people that want to manage their time better is something called procrastinating. How does one overcome that? What do you suggest? How do we push individuals to not push things off?
Absolutely. So procrastination is definitely one of the topics I talk about most because it affects all different people in all different ways. Again, sometimes we're pushing off these little tasks here and there, changing a light bulb or replacing the air filter in the air conditioner, or sometimes
Or learning the daf, or learning.
off or exercising, and all the different things are sometimes they're small things, sometimes they're bigger things, and there's really a three-step process that I use for overcoming procrastination. Actually, using the acronym PRO. The first step is preventing. What is preventing me from actually doing this action? A lot of times we have different things that come up and different reasons why we don't do tasks or different projects. Sometimes it is a fear of failure. I'm afraid what's going to happen. Let's say Daf Yomi as an example. I'm afraid that I'm going to do it today, but then I'm going to fall off the train tomorrow. Like, well, why am I even going to start? Sometimes it's a fear of success, where I feel that if I do this task successfully, or if I really commit to doing something, then what if I can't? I don't want to follow through because there's a lot more commitment that's going to come later on. And then the third one is a fear of the unknown. How do I even start? How do I even do it? And a lot of those things are really holding us back from taking the action that we know is going to help us both in our ruchnias, both in spiritually as well as in our material lives and our personal lives. So that's really step one. Is P is what's preventing me from doing it. R is an example that I had was I was working with a student, a high school student, and he was pushing off his homework. He didn't want to do his homework. And I said, okay, so when he gets home, he knows he has this 5-minute assignment to do, and then he's going to, he knows he needs to do it before school the next day. And as we're going through the day, I said, okay, when you're going to a night learning program, are you thinking about the homework you haven't done yet? Yes, it's still in my mind. Are you thinking about it when you get home from the kollel? Yes, it's still in my mind. I haven't done it yet. Are you thinking about it when you go to sleep? Yes, it's still in my mind. I haven't done it yet. And then I wake up. It's still in my mind. I go get to school. It's still in my mind. And then 5 minutes before class, I'm going to get it done. So we're thinking that it's this level of discomfort that the task is going to take. Let's say this annoying homework or this annoying task that's just let's call it a level 5 of frustration, a level 5 of annoyance. But as we push it off, it's not staying that level 5 later on. The pain increases as we're pushing it off. So we're going from a level 5, but then we have that guilt, I haven't done it yet, or that we're disappointing ourselves, we're disappointing other people, whatever that's coming from. So instead of thinking, okay, I have a level 5 discomfort today, I have a level 5 discomfort tomorrow, of course I'll push it till tomorrow. But if it's going to be a level 5 today and a level 10 tomorrow because of all the added guilt and frustration, then what that's doing is we're adding pain, we're adding disappointment in ourselves as we're pushing it off. So the R is reframe. I'm reframing that from it's not going to be equal level of discomfort, rather I'm increasing the amount of pain and discomfort that it's causing. So I'm not gaining, I'm actually losing by pushing it off. So that's the P is preventing, the R is reframing, the O is what is one thing that I can do? One thing that I can do, one step that I can do to move this forward. Again, for Daf Yomi, what's one thing that I can do is just pick a shear, pick a time that you can learn. Like whether it's doing something virtual on Chazaq or whether it's something where I go into my shul and going to find a specific class to go to. When it comes to, let's say, cleaning the garage, right? But there's so much overwhelm. There's so many things to do. But what's one thing that I can do to move it forward? Do I just sit there with my spouse and say, okay, what is the plan for this project? What are we working on? So we're trying to find that one thing that we can do to move it forward. And another one thing that oftentimes comes up is a strategy called Eat the Frog, where I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but
It's
I
actually,
think it's
yesterday we had a staff meeting, and shout out to Robbie Abov, he's director of operations. So he mentioned this concept. just yesterday, which is
That's
interesting.
amazing. So just to share with the audience, if anyone's not familiar with it, Eat That Frog is actually a concept by Mark Twain, where he had this vision where if I told you, right, Marav, that you're leaving out any kashrus, if I had your job today is to eat a live frog, right? So obviously it's a very uncomfortable, and you know that nothing else in your day will compare to that level of discomfort or that level of pain. And we really have two ways of going about that. The first way we can do it is we can push it off to the end of the day and just that's going to be the last thing I'm going to do. Or I can get it over with quickly, and then the rest of the day will be so much easier knowing that most frustrating and disgusting thing I need to do is already done. So my entire day is freed up. So, what is that frog for today? What is one thing that is that annoying task for me that I want to be able to get over with? And that way I'll be able to end off my day knowing that even if for whatever reason I don't get everything else done, but I know that one thing was accomplished, and that itself is amazing. So P is preventing. What's preventing me from taking action? R is reframing that pushing it off is not gaining me anything. If anything, it's losing a lot. And then O is what's one thing, whether it's one conversation or one task or um, one eating the frog that is going to help me take it to the next level.
Very, very nice, Avi. I love it. P is PRO, preventing, reframing. R is reframing in one. Take one thing. For example, a person has to clean the living room. So the whole living room, oh my gosh, it's so much. It was start in one corner, one, right? Then you finish that one corner, and then it just moves on. And there's
Yeah.
actually a chinuch that says something very interesting. It talks obviously about spirituality, but you can use it for materialistic reasons as well, for anything in that matter. That he says, "Achrei hapiliot nimshachim halevavot." After the actions comes the heart. So many times people aren't in the mood of doing something that they need to do, but once they start doing it, then they get into it, they get excited about it. So that's another concept that a person can take to heart. Avi, so there's a very big problem, and that is distractions. That's one of the big issues with regards to time management. People are distracted, whether it's on their phones, whether it's things pop up. How do we avoid distractions? How do we overcome those distractions? What do you suggest?
Okay, great. It's a great question because again, distractions are all around us, right? There's a lot of things that are on our plate that are throwing us off from actually accomplishing. Again, people blame the phone, they blame technology, they blame social media, etc. So one differentiation I would do is we can't, and this comes from a book. Nir Eyal has a book called Indistractable, fantastic book. The first thing he points out is we can't call something a distraction if we don't know what it's distracting us from. Meaning, we can blame our phone. Okay, social media. I was on scrolling Facebook for 2 hours. But what were your intentions for those 2 hours? If it was just like open time and just I'm trying to fill the time and I wanted to do something, but I didn't actually plan it out, then that's not really a distraction. That is just we're filling time that wasn't really planned. And I think he points out that the opposite of distraction is traction, is making progress, is moving ahead. So, and distraction prevents us from taking action. So the first thing is understanding what is our intention for that time. What are we trying to accomplish during that time that the distractions are impacting us from? And secondarily is there's different types of distractions. There's internal distractions where we know where like I just don't want to do this task. I don't want to do. I'm avoiding this. I don't want to learn. I don't want to go to the base manager. So I'm just going to find something to fill the time, as opposed to sometimes there are actual external distractions, things that come at us. Let's say people disturbing us, or phone notifications, or things like that. So there are different strategies that help for each of those. If it's internal distractions, again, trying to like I'm just bored or I need to fill the time or I just don't want to do something, then again, trying to build that self-awareness. What's holding me back from doing it? Why is this annoying? Why is this frustrating? And can I break it down to something that's a little bit less frustrating? Then I'm gonna just start with that. Maybe set a 10-minute timer. I'm just gonna do the daf yomi for 10 minutes, and then after that, I can reassess and see if it's something I want to do. And then when we get into that, then we can work through that. And then external distractions. Again, obviously, there's ways to avoid distractions from our phones. away distractions from other people. We can have communication and explain to people why this is important. I need to have a focus, making sure in advance that people know that during this time I need to really focus to be able to accomplish, whether it's in learning or whether it's in other things in our life. And in terms of the phone notifications, again, our phones come with all these notifications of all these different, every app has its own notification settings. And we just typically, when we get our phone and we download an app, we're not thinking about what notifications it has, or is it serving us, or really is it harming us? So that really, what I would really just have each person go through. Do I really need this notification, or is it just because it was a default setting that all of a sudden that Uber Eats is going to give me a notification when there's a sale on whatever restaurant, but that's disturbing me from my focus. Do I really need that notification? Is that really serving me, or is it more of a distraction? And let me just spend 5-10 minutes going through my notifications and assessing what is important and what's not. Do I need the WhatsApp group notifications when someone in a group chat is responding? Do I need to actually know every single time someone responds to something, or can I put that on mute or archive? A lot of those types of strategies are helpful.
Very, very, very true. Very, very, very nice. 100%. There's a famous saying, everybody says it, time is money. But I think that more than money, time is life. This is what we have a limited amount of time in this world. We need to accomplish, we need to produce, we need to make things happen. Um, Before we get to the final message, creating routines. A person wants to get into a routine, have a schedule. Any tips on that?
Absolutely. So routines is definitely something that the goal of a routine, the reason why it's so powerful is because there's a concept called decision fatigue, where we get tired of making decisions and we just like every time we are like, okay, what am I doing? How am I doing it? What am I wearing? Etc. The beauty of having a routine is that we don't need to have a decision making because it's more automated. It's more by rote. We don't need to overthink what we're doing or how we're doing it. Which again, routines apply to all areas of life, whether it's a learning routine, a davening routine, whether it is a personal routine, exercise, etc., or a work routine. Those are things. And in terms of routines, when we're trying to establish a habit or trying to establish a routine, we need to be aware of what is the how am I going to remember to develop this routine? What am I going to do to really remember that I want to develop this routine? Because in the beginning, oftentimes, no matter what routine we're trying to build, there's a lot of automation that we're used to. We're not used to making this routine. We're not used to developing it. So we need to find a way to anchor that habit and to establish it. Sometimes it's having a phone alarm that's going to ring at 9 o'clock and say, start getting ready for bed, develop your bedtime routine. Sometimes it's attaching it to another existing routine, which is why it's so common that people brush their teeth when they're waking up in the morning or when they're going to sleep, is because they're attaching the teeth brushing to an existing routine, whether it's a shower, whether it's waking up and washing their face or washing the tails to washing their hands, etc. So those are two things to keep in mind. Is try to attach it to an existing routine. Let's say something after, like someone wants to do a learning routine. So learn after shul. Go when you're going to shul and you're davening shacharis or shacharit. Have a learning routine after that. So you're building on another habit, and at the same time, if it's some of a routine that's not as fully established, how do I interrupt my thoughts when I'm trying to develop it to remember to actually do it?
Powerful, amazing. Okay, so we have a minhag, we have a final message for our broader audience. Avi Friedman on the topic of time management.
Absolutely. So again, as you share, Romero, time is extremely precious. And when people share that I'm just killing time, I need time to waste, it really is. It's chaval, because it's a shame, because we sacrifice life. We sacrifice Shabbos. We sacrifice anything to live a little bit longer. To every second of life is so precious. And
I'm sorry to cut you off. I heard something beautiful once, which is killing time is in essence suicide in installments. You're killing
interesting.
yourself.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
So it's
Right,
very
and we look at time as really more of, okay, just I'll fill it with whatever. If we're not being intentional with how we're spending our time, then our day is going to be filled with all sorts of nonsense or randomness. Again, we need time for relaxation. We need time for enjoying. We need time to spend with our family. We need time to spend with in terms of learning and spiritual elements. The most important thing is intentionality. If I'm going and preparing beforehand, how am I spending my time? Actually, I saw in Art School Sitter, it says when we daven Mariv, it says V'sakneinu be'etza tovo milfanecha. We're trying to establish a good etza. We're trying to establish good advice. So one of the commentaries there says that we're trying to plan our day for the next day. We're asking Hashem at night so we can make sure that we're planning our day for the next day. Because again, when we're being intentional, we're really focused on being proactive at how I want to fill my time, then it makes a tremendous difference on how we feel about ourselves afterwards. Like I tell people, if you spend, let's say, an hour and being entertained or doing some sort of habit, whether you're watching something or whether you are finding an activity that you enjoy, if you are intentional with that activity and you carved out time for that, you can really sit and be present with that enjoyment. You can really feel good about what you're doing. If it's coming at the sacrifice of, okay, I'm going to get distracted, I'm going to do this activity, but in the back of my mind, like I know there's 100 things I still need to do, we're not going to have that same level of enjoyment. We're not going to really appreciate the relaxation or the enjoyment we get from that activity. So the more intentional we can be, again, whether it's planning our day in the morning, okay, what are the top things I need to do today, whether it's developing our calendar, our schedule, whatever it is, that if we're going through it and thinking in advance of what we want to accomplish and what we want to do, it's going to be life changing.
100%. Very, very powerful Torah talk with Avi Friedman from Boca, Florida, originally from Queens. The topic of time management, very, very, very important. I personally enjoyed it very much because I'm one that likes to, Baruch Hashem, take advantage of every single moment. In the beginning of the Torah talk, you mentioned about our plates being full. When someone mentioned to Rav Yosef Zechit, blessed memory, that his plate is full, the Rav answered him, get a bigger plate. We could always do more if we manage our time better. And it was very, very insightful and very, very informative. We thank you very much for joining us. We want to remind everyone at Chazaq Torah Talks with special guests Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, chazaq.org/live, chazaq.org/live. I want to say a special thank you to various different platforms, so many platforms that are hosting Chazaq Torah Talks, with the emphasis, and thanks to our friends at TorahAnytime.com. Thank you very much as well. Dailygiving.org, a dollar a day goes a very far way. Right now, as we speak, whoever's watching live, chazaq.org, chazaq.org, visit the website. We have our 360 raffle that the drawing is tonight at 10 p.m. So we encourage everyone to get a ticket if you haven't done so. Just a few tickets left. And it's December 31st, which is the end of the secular new year. You have an opportunity for a tax-deductible donation to one of the most amazing organizations in the entire universe. That's Chazaq, Baruch Hashem, saving souls, saving lives, changing people's lives. After-school programs, Sunday school programs, teen programs, yeshiva placement division. Over 1,800 kids placed to yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, the last few years alone. That's aside for the Torah Talk podcast and the Shirman event, and the Electric Spanish and the title, and the Parsha we have the food pantry, and go on and on and on. There's so much going on. But we want to do a lot more. We encourage everyone to get involved. And once again, I want to thank Avi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.